Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Tonight I'm very excited to give you a review for the new Transformers Earthrise Deluxe class Ironworks. Finally managed to track this guy down at a local Target. Unfortunately, he was the only deluxe left, so somebody beat me to it. So, if you are the individual that scooped up all the deluxes at the Reynolds Way Target in Lexington, let me know in the comments so we can arrange a duel for honor. Hopefully I'll manage to snag the other ones sometime here in the next week, but we'll see. Anyway, Ironworks is coming in as War for Cybertron Earthrise number 8. So I believe that numerically puts him at the back end of the deluxes, because I believe they're 5 through 8 after the Micromaster and Battlemasters. And this being my first full-size Earthrise toy to review, we got some things to look at. It's pretty exciting. So first, my little spiel. If you know my reviews, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at the toy's packaging, open it up, take a look at the instructions, and then see the toy itself and its various alternate modes, robot mode. We'll be doing some group shots tonight, and then at the end, I will give my final thoughts. So the front of Ironworks' packaging is nothing really new beyond what the Micromasters had. On the side here, you have this really nice artwork of him in his base mode. You can see his planes flying in the background, which I'm guessing are the Seekers maybe. All sorts of laser fire explosions, and then he's using his crane to haul something around there. Very cool, lots of detail. Here on the back, you have your renders for him. Shows it takes 10 steps to basically break him down to his components, and then another 10 steps to transform into his base mode. And I believe there's supposed to be another official base mode, unless that was all just fan moding, but we'll see. Here it showcases the airlock system, the connectivity between all the different Earthrise figures, or Deluxe and above anyway, and even like Siege Omega Supreme had it, as well as Siege Astro Train, who is now Earthrise Astro Train. So they got a whole ecosystem going on there. His alternate mode is meant to be a Micromaster base, which is why he's marketed with the Micromaster Hot Rod Patrol. And let's see. Oh, he got his name in Ancient Autobot there. I'm getting pretty fluent at reading this. Kind of worries me, becoming like one of those Trekkies that is, fluent in Klingon. Becoming that guy, doing all these reviews. Now here's the cool thing. This is the official Earthrise artwork, much like the Siege packages had theirs. In fact, I'll grab a random one just to show you. So it's kind of an inverse, right? This has the Autobots, escaping Cybertron in the Ark. This is them touching down on Earth in the Ark after being, seemingly shot down by the Nemesis here. And there are even some things to unpack on this. So you have some characters that we've already seen. You got Megatron from, his Siege appearance. You got Unicron way in the background, and we know he's coming. It's that HasLab production thing. Right here you got Shockwave from Siege. You got Sideswipe from Siege, Hound, and then Optimus is probably in his Earthrise body, though it's kind of hard to tell from here. It might be a Siege body. We know about Wheeljack coming in Earthrise. Now for the more, speculative stuff. There's a Quintesson here, and a lot of leaks are telling us that we're going to get a Voyager-class Quintesson. You have Double Dealer shown in this little spot, and he's supposed to be a leader class, supposedly. RC is also rumored to be in Earthrise. And Trailbreaker here, I don't know, I can't remember if he was revealed in a leak or not, but he's just kind of expected because we already have Hoist. They're just a retool of each other. Though, interestingly, this picture of him seems more based on his Thrilling 30 toy than any retool of the current Hoist figure. And then also, you can see there's some sort of explosion on a ship. Looks like the Ark, blown up. And you can see Bumblebee running away from it. And now Bumblebee in this picture looks quite a bit like the upcoming Cliff Jumper toy. And, it's not crazy to imagine that they'd eventually retool Cliff Jumper into Bumblebee. But, time will tell on that. But, it'd kind of be a waste of the mold not to, because it seems to be a great mold if, overpriced. Now, coming on the top here, and this I hadn't seen before. I don't know if anybody's shown the top of the box yet. I guess we should flip it this way. So you got the Autobot symbol, and it looks like it's being interrupted by like video static. You got like a black hole or galaxy here. But look at this. Flip it back around. There's Galvatron coming out of, it seems to be a wormhole or something. And that's very interesting. Why would Galvatron be there? The last time he had a toy was in, Titan's Return. So he hasn't been part of the War for Cybertron trilogy yet, which makes sense because typically Galvatron comes quite a bit later in the timeline. So I'm very curious as to, what this is implying. Like, is it just a random cameo, an Easter egg, or are we getting another Galvatron, possibly one done a little better? I mean, personally, I like the Titans Return Galvatron for the most part, but they really sacrificed when they did the whole flip-up Battle Mask, Titan Master gimmick thing. Just really hurt the toy. I actually wouldn't even mind just a kind of reworking of that mold, just better joints and a better head. But anywho, probably the most in-depth I've ever gone on a package. Oh, I'd also like to point out that unlike the Siege figures, these Earthrise toys don't seem to have any sort of secret code on their boxes. It'll normally be on this side here, but shining the light, you can see there's no extra surface detail. It's all flat. So I guess they're nixing that for Earthrise. But in its place, they're doing the universal map, which they all come on a piece of the box for every toy in the line, not just Deluxe and above, but even Micromasters, Battlemasters. So make sure not to throw your box away until you cut out your map piece, and I'll be doing that too. And then one last thing before I open them up, a little bit of background on Ironworks for people that don't know who or what he is. So originally, Ironworks was this guy, a little Micromaster from G1. And then he came with a Micromaster base that looked like this guy. Well, he got re-released in Siege, or remade, I guess, in Siege, under the name Iron Tread. So they went and changed his name around, and a lot of people figured, it's probably for copyright. And then lo and behold, we get this new Autobot in Earthrise called Ironworks that turns into his base. So Hasbro and Takara seem to have decided that Iron Tread is a more fitting name for the individual character than Ironworks was the name of his base, which makes sense, right? It's like an Ironworks. So very clever, very cool. It's one of the few times I kind of approve of a name change. Normally I kind of roll my eyes at them, but this one makes more sense. And now that I've spent almost 10 minutes talking about packaging, let's move on. All right, here are the instructions for Ironworks. And they're using the same blue that they used for the Micromaster. So I guess blue is the new color. They're ditching the red and purple instructions. They're just going with blue, which honestly I'm okay with because it's much easier to see, especially much easier than the purple instructions because they used a very dark purple. Very difficult to make out details. Here, just like the Micromasters, he has tech specs, and it looks like they all utilized the same metrics. Yeah, looks like it. So he even uses the teamwork stat, which, in this case, I guess it makes sense, right? Because they all connect in some way. So no more firepower, I suppose. Interesting. All right, so this is a parts breakdown for him. And right here you can see transformation. First bit is just taking him apart. Second bit is transforming him into this mode right here. Then, what's this? Okay, so this is showing you how to transform him into armor, kind of like a weaponizer. And here they're showing him on Wheeljack. Unfortunately, since our mystery person beat me to all these toys today, I don't have Wheeljack. But I will find you, friend. I will find you. So I'll be doing it on a Siege figure. So sorry, guys. And unfortunately, they don't show off the other base mode that was shown in renders. So I'll have to look up those renders and recreate that for you guys. Then here, this shows what to do with the map. Retain instructions for future reference. And then you're gonna use a little decoder thing to reveal the map, and I'll show you that in a sec. Then cross-sell with Trip Up and Daddy-O, or Big Daddy there. So I like it. The instructions are nice and big. They're very clear. I do wish they would have given instructions for that alternate base mode, but I mean, there's only so many pieces. It's not going to be hard to figure out. Just look at the picture. All right, now, unlike the Micromasters, who had these little diamond-shaped cutouts for the map on the actual cardboard, this is on the thin insert that's inside the box. And you can see he gets a much bigger chunk of the map than they did. Yeah, he has effectively, let's estimate here. 1, 2, I think it's 3 per one of these, so 9. Effectively 9 of what the Micromasters came with. And then he comes with the little decoder thing right here. So very reminiscent of how you decoded the old G1 tech specs. So, we'll get those out, take a look. Oh, look, this says Velocitron right there. I don't know if I'm supposed to be able to read that without the magic decoder, but it's pretty obvious. So that's Velocitron, very cool. All right, here's his map piece all cut out. And I checked with the 2 little pieces that came with the Micromasters. Neither of them seem to line up with this, so they must go elsewhere on the map, which is a shame, but kind of expected it at some point. All right, and here's our little decoder and doohickey. And I mean, again, you can kind of already read it without, but this does make it much clearer. So you can see Velocitron, that's the name in Ancient Autobot up above, and then it's got this interesting symbol. Looks like a little swirly symbol. I'm guessing that's supposed to be a symbol, exclusively for Velocitron, but I guess we'll see. And then this just kind of clarifies any of the red print on here. So not super necessary, but it's nice. Makes it more legible. And then again, the G1 tech specs, it's not like you couldn't read the stats without the decoder. It's a really interesting way of expanding on a classic gimmick for the toy line. All right, now here is Ironworks in the aforementioned alternate base mode. And what this is supposed to be based on is the communications tower that the Ironworks' base could transform into. So it could be either like the crane base, or it could turn into a communications tower. So that's what this is emulating. So they actually kept that functionality intact. Now, why they didn't include it in the instructions, I don't know if it was an oversight or if they just nixed it. For resources, I couldn't tell you. One thing I do want to point out with this, though. Now, if you look here, this little square piece connected to the top, I had to scrape away. Oh no, this won't come off. All right, this 5mm hole. You can see there's some paint damage there. I had to scrape all that away because there was so much paint. It was so thickly laid on that hole that it absolutely would not fit on that post. So I'm not really happy about that. It looks pretty bad, but it was the best I could do. Unfortunately, just kind of took off more paint than I would have liked. I don't know how widespread this issue is going to be, but just something to keep in mind. You may have to remove some paint to get this mode to work. Luckily, I don't think this hole is used for any of his other transformations, so if you don't care about this, then you don't have to mess with it. But it is something to be wary of. Right now we're going to break this guy down into his components. So this one is already good. That's that one arm, you just kind of fold it up into a square like that. Let's take his crane off of here. Take the gun off. Crane stays like that. Separate this panel. Flatten it back out. Alright, we're gonna take these off. These are the legs. This is an extra panel. So set it aside. Close these up on the legs like so. Set those aside. And this bit here, fold this peg down and fold this back over. And the head is gonna stay down and turn around. All right, and those are the pieces. And next we'll put them together into the base mode. All right, we're starting with these 2 pieces right here. And you're gonna flip it this way and this way. So you're plugging this peg in that hole right there. Fairly tight fit. That's kind of good because it means it won't move around. So there's our first bit here, our first start. Make sure you take the other leg. You're gonna kind of attach it the exact same way here. All right. So we got this. All right, now you're gonna flip this guy around to where these little connector pieces are showing. You're gonna take your like pelvis panel and connect them right here. And these shouldn't get in the way. Should have just enough clearance. So you end up with this. Spin this around and take your main torso piece here you're gonna plug this post into this hole. So it's gonna be kind of hanging off the edge a little bit, which is a little weird, but okay, that's what we got. Now, the gun, you're actually gonna separate into two pieces. It does break down. You take this piece, flip this thing over again, and you're gonna plug it in to this post facing this way. The handle is gonna be pointing toward the inside of this whole contraption. Flip back around. Oh yeah, so that helps it stand up. I get it now. Where'd that gun go? Take this, plug it into this hole here. Not as solid of a connection as I would have liked, that's for sure. All right, so I got that. I'm gonna flip this little post up in the torso bit. Pointing straight up. Take your crane arm, connect it like so. Not like so. That was the wrong way. Connect it like this. There you go. All right. And this piece just comes right on here. Forms a little ramp going down. All right. A little confusing the first time, but we got through it, right? All right, so you have this functioning little crane base here. Obviously the crane can rotate, full 360, go up and down, right? Does all that fun stuff. And that's really all there is to it. It's fairly simple, but you know, the old MicroMaster bases were also very, very simple toys. He's got a few areas where he can connect. Obviously the ramp, and that can connect in two directions. Got these connections right here, and some here. I don't know if this has enough clearance for a connection. So has a few different ways that he can go ahead and join up with other bases, other figures, city bots maybe. Here is old Iron Tread, formerly known as Ironworks, to join Ironworks, formerly known as MicroMaster Base. There's nothing confusing about this. And they do color match pretty well. All of Ironworks' yellow details are painted, so they're not an exact shade match, but it's close enough. The blacks are pretty spot on, so overall they work really well together. And this is very reminiscent of, you know, the original playset. Of course, these ramps and roadways are great for your MicroMaster and the vehicle modes to kind of drive around. You know, if you want to let out your inner kid and vroom vroom, lots of room to vroom vroom. Well, not really lots of room, it's actually pretty narrow, but lots of mileage, you know. Once you get these things connected, they can drive all over the place. And, you know, if only I had something to connect this guy to. If only there were figures already out that were airlock compatible. All right, I told myself I wasn't gonna do this. Told myself it's late, you should get to bed, but I love you all too much. So here we have Ironworks connected alongside Astro Train and Omega Supreme. And then, you know, sort of MicroMasters for fun. And, you know, it just gives you an idea of how these bases are gonna come together. See, there's the connection point right there. His ramp isn't quite long enough to reach directly up to Omega, so imagine larger figures like Astro Train here will be kind of halfway points between the Titans and smaller Deluxes. But you know, it works. It's not 100% perfect, kind of like the old Titan interlocking system from Titan's Returns, which, you know, if you watched my Omega Supreme review, you would know are compatible with all this. Make a really massive city. Not saying you have to watch that review, but you know, all the cool kids are doing it, so no pressure. But yeah, I like the way this is turning out, and I really can't wait to see more of this and start getting belligerent with connecting all sorts of toys together, taking up the kitchen floor, angering my wife, you know, simple things in life. All right, so antics aside, we're gonna continue with the transformation now. So the first thing we're going to do is break him back down into his parts. And through the magic of video wizardry, it's already done. Now, before I move on to the armor up mode and all that, something I didn't really notice with the instructions before is that there's another mode they show off. It's basically a ramp or a street. So set these parts aside, and the way you build it, use the legs and the two panels. So let's take this leg first. We're going to connect the hair on there, my dog, and connect the regular panel to that. So go ahead, put it in right here. Then we're going to connect the hips, because they don't lie. Now we connect this, and you just kind of straighten it out, and there you go. You made a little roadway. So that's another way you can manipulate this guy. It's a little floppy, so I wouldn't put too much weight on it. But, you know, it works for a nice connector piece. You can have some little bases coming in that way, this way, all that becomes like a nice big intersection. So that's very cool. I can't believe I didn't notice that before. All right, moving on to the weaponizing part of this. Go ahead, take his feet again. I'll lift these panels up out of the way, like so. Take the chest piece, swing it down, like that. Make sure that thing's pushed back in. And pull this peg out so it becomes kind of like a claw arm. Set it aside. You're going to take the hip panel thing and the regular panel, attach them together, bring one of these up, and fold the other one in, like so. Set it aside. You're going to take the yellow arm box thing, go ahead and separate it. That's a tight connection there. All right, get it separated. Make it like that. Looks like. And then let's see, we'll put this around. Bend this at 90. Side. Now that we have it all assembled, I'm gonna bring in my very special guest, who I decided will be Mirage, because why not? Mirage needs some love. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and attach these things as boots onto the bottoms of Mirage's feet, like so. Straighten all that out. I'm actually gonna fold these panels over, kind of hold everything in place better. You got that. Then the claw arm thing you attach to Mirage's shoulder. Becomes kind of like a weapon of some sort. This becomes like a shield. Plugs in here. Also looks rather silly. I don't know why that's facing up like that. All right, next we're gonna spin this dude around. Take this piece, plug it into his back. And take the crane, plug it into the top of this. He's got this little shoulder-mounted crane going on. And then the gun, you just place on the end of the crane. And that is the official configuration for his armor up or weaponizer, whatever mode you want to call it. Oh, by the way, I probably should have mentioned this sooner, but Ironworks' subclass is called Modulators, which is kind of the evolution of Siege's weaponizers. So they pretty much do everything weaponizers do. You know, they transform by coming apart and rearranging, and they form armor for other transformers. The key difference between them is that whereas weaponizers would have a vehicle mode, these guys have a base mode. But they're more or less the same. Now, personally, I think this looks rather silly. I think if I were to adjust this in any way, or fan mode anyway, I might just flip that down. Guess it doesn't work very well either. Kind of a terrible shield. All right, so I don't think this guy's armor up mode is really great. And unlike the weaponizers, he only has one official mode like this. So yeah, it's cool they can do this, but it's pretty weak sauce. Not really feeling it. Alright, I've gone and reverted everything back to its base configuration, and now it is finally time to transform this guy to his robot mode. So we'll kind of go from the ground up, get his feet, and you'll know they're in the right configuration when the little gray panels are facing the outside. Alright, you're gonna swing his thighs up out of these feet. Gonna get your fingernail or something in there, pull him out, so you get him up like that. And you're gonna take his little pelvis panel doohickey, plug it in to each thigh, like so. Separate him a bit, yeah, give him some A stance going on, just make things easier for yourself. His ankle tilt's kind of tight. Alright, then we take this bit. You're gonna go ahead, swing his head panel up, turn the head around, like so. And then instead of plugging down, actually plugs into here. So you go ahead and should connect two ways. There's post here, post on the other side. Alright, then for his back bit, take this panel, bring it. You want to connect these two holes to these two pegs, and per the instructions, this nub is supposed to be facing his left side. No, I don't think it really matters much, but it's the official configuration. So you got that. Turn back around. Take this crane, plug in here to become an arm, turn it, get a more natural position. This piece, unconnect it once again. Connection makes me a little nervous. Plug it in here. All right, and lastly, the instructions actually have you plug his blaster into his shoulder here and stick it straight up, rather than have him hold it like a gun, which is kind of weird. I don't know why he wouldn't want to arm himself, but that's the direction they went with. So yeah, this is his official robot configuration. And this is very cool. You know, he does very much resemble the weaponizers, especially like Brunt. It's this very robotic, like drone-like appearance. He's pretty much fully posable. Got your usual hinge and swivel on the shoulders, head's on a ball joint. He has, instead of a waist swivel, it's actually a waist hinge. It comes off the back panel, so it's limited in its movement. Hinge and swivel on the hips, thigh swivel, single bend knees, and ankle tilt. So, you know, he's pretty much the whole package. This wrist doesn't swivel, unfortunately. This crane hand thing actually does, and it actually even comes off. I didn't show that earlier because it's not required for any of the stats, but you can actually remove that and then choose to plug something else on, like, how about this, for instance? Oh snap, cannon arm. I wonder if that was like intentional and they just kind of dropped it or something. But either way, you know, you have a lot of options for customization. How about this? Look at that, way better. So yeah, that's how this guy basically operates. He's got a lot going on. He's got two separate base modes, each one reflecting one of the possible transformations of the original base, whether it's like a crane base or a communications tower. He has a weapon up mode, or weaponizer mode, whatever you want to call it. He's got his robot mode, which is pretty cool looking. And then to top it all off, he's got a lot of compatibility. You know, he can connect all these different Earthrise and Siege figures, all that stuff. Indirectly, that means he can connect to your Prime Wars figures. He gets to be this really cool little base for old Iron Tread there. I just love seeing them together. It's like a match made in heaven. And, you know, so far, if this is what the deluxe price point for Earthrise has to offer, I'm impressed. Now, granted, this guy's going to be quite a bit different from the other deluxes because he's the only modulator in the group. The rest are more typical, you know, Autobots. But I am liking what I see. I do think the weapon up mode is probably his weakest bit. It just really fails to impress. It looks silly, if you ask me. But it's functional. I'm just not crazy about the aesthetic. So I fully recommend picking this guy up. He's going to be a lot of fun when it comes to building up your Earthrise collection, making your little battle scenes, all that stuff. If you were an old 80s kid and you really like those Micromaster bases, well, now you can finally recreate one. And if you jumped on that 10-pack from Siege, you even got the guy that comes with them. So, it's a double win. So yeah, pick him up, if you can find him. I was lucky enough to find this guy, not lucky enough to find the other three, thanks to whoever you are. But I'm happy I at least got this guy. It gave me my first real taste of Earthrise, because the Micromasters, they're Micromasters. They're not too different from the Siege ones. But anyway, that is purely how I feel about this guy.